For years, you've asked me to go on location, to stand exactly where the known became the unknown, to feel the air, to see the ground, to put my boots down in the places that define the missing 411 phenomenon. Today, we are standing on the edge of the Kootenai National Forest, deep in Montana, beside a water source called Lee Creek. The cedar slashings are thick, the forest is vast, and the silence is almost deafening. This place holds a story from 1955 that is so bizarre, so contradictory, it sits right at the heart of our research. But before we dive into the disappearance of little Ida Mae Curtis, we need to address something critical, something that, frankly, blows away everything we thought we knew about these cases. We've cataloged hundreds of cases. People who vanish in remote areas, often near water, frequently when a storm is moving in. We've established the profile points. But what if there was an invisible, almost cosmic factor tying them all together? I've always told you to read the books. The data is immense, and no video can ever capture the depth of the sacrifice and effort put into it. Recently, however, a highly educated professional, a man with a PhD, a clinical therapist who takes valid research very seriously, decided to do his own deep dive into the missing 411 data. This man, Dr. Kurt Bachman, looked at our profile points, and a chilling hypothesis formed. Could the sheer brightness or darkness of the moon predict a missing 411 case? He compared the moon phase for almost every North American case in the books, applying a strict scientific analysis. In most studies on crime or suicide, they define a full moon as anything 75% or brighter. But even with that broad definition, they find very little correlation. Dr. Bachman went tighter, much tighter. He analyzed two key groups, the absolute brightest at 90% or more, and the absolute darkest at 10% or less illumination. Folks, I wouldn't be sharing this with you if the research was mixed or inconclusive. When I read his initial findings on the cases in missing 411 hunters, I was literally astounded by the consistency. 16% of the missing death cases happened on an exact full moon or an exact new moon day. The statistical expectation is 6.8% or less. That is already far outside the realm of chance. But here is the statistical thunderbolt. 71% of cases happened when the moon was either 75% or more illuminated or 25% or less illuminated. That means these events happen when the moon is either getting quite dark or becoming quite bright. A stunning 42% of cases occurred when the moon was 90% or more illuminated, or 10% or less illuminated. The vast body of literature on suicide and crime has found nothing that comes anywhere close to this kind of tight association. He ran the analysis on every single book, every data set, and the findings were consistent across hundreds of cases. The data is irrefutable. You are much more likely to vanish during these extreme light and dark phases. Why? What is this dynamic phenomena? My hypothesis, and the hypothesis that drove Dr. Bachman, is that whatever is causing these people to go missing might be utilizing the moon as an aid. This points to a powerful, intelligent, unknown element. This is our signal in the noise, our clue that tells us something intelligent, something unnatural, is operating here. This astronomical anomaly leads us directly back to the terrifying case of Ida Mae Curtis at Lee Creek. We are here, about 18 miles south of Libby, Montana, in the heart of the Kootenai Forest. On July 4th, 1955, this area was a busy logging camp, packed with people visiting for the Independence Day weekend. Ida Mae Curtis, just 27 months old, was playing near the family tent when chaos erupted. The older children screamed after seeing a large creature, a bear, emerging from the shelter, hopping on 3 legs. The little girl was instantly gone. The mother rushed inside, confirming the child was missing, and immediately assumed the bear had abducted her. Remember what the high-ranking journalist told me. The first article is often the most truthful. The initial report mentioned that the search was hampered by a heavy, continuous downpour. A storm. Another key. Missing 411 profile point in action. But the details become terrifyingly specific. Ida Mae's grandfather confirmed he saw a bear, a large animal running away on 3 legs, carrying something. An adult eyewitness sees a massive creature using only 3 limbs, suggesting the 4th is occupied, carrying a small child. The father chased it to Lee Creek, right here, and lost it. The bloodhounds, the best available, came to the creek once, twice, 3 times, and then the scent vanished. The scent trail simply disappeared in the water. But what happened next is the part that defies all known logic, all biology, and suggests an element of the supernatural. 21 hours later, at 3:30 p.m., the child was found. She was found unharmed, huddled in a rude shelter of cedar slashings. This was not a natural den. It was a rough construction of heavy branches, far too large for a 2-year-old to lift or build. The conditions overnight were brutal, snow and rain. Men searching were chilled to the bone, their heavy coats soaked. Ida Mae Curtis was completely dry and showed no signs of a cold. Her clothes were dry, her body temperature was normal, and even more bizarrely, her muddy shoes from the camp were somehow clean when she was found. Her father insisted. The bear mothered her all night. Here's the undeniable truth, folks. You don't get taken by a bear and survive unscathed, warm, and dry with clean shoes after an overnight snow and rainstorm. A grizzly would have either consumed her or left her brutally scarred. When she was reunited with her father, she cried out, "Gaddy, bear, bear, big bear, Gaddy, water." The sheriff, Ray Frost, was absolutely adamant against the parent's story, insisting the child just ran off. But the evidence spoke a different, horrifying language. She was taken, sheltered, and then returned. The creature that took her was either intelligent or being controlled by something intelligent. The story has another unsettling layer. I met a local man in Libby who shared a detail from a relative of Ida Mae. The one consistent thing the little girl would say afterward was a reference to big chi-chis, big breasts. A large bear on 3 legs, carrying a child. A child returned warm, dry, and sheltered. And a child's reference to the body type of the captor. This suggests a creature profile beyond a common forest predator. In the missing 411 files, we have multiple accounts where children describe being taken by a creature, often large and hairy, but being coddled, kept warm, and protected. A bizarre act of cryptic nurture in a lethal environment. The creature that took Ida Mae, perhaps a form of cryptid, was seen running, carrying her, and created a complex shelter. Its behavior does not align with any known predator. This is where the moon phase Enigma forces us to consider the terrifying possibility of a dimensional rift. The data tells us that the unknown force behind missing 411 operates more effectively during the maximum gravitational or shadow casting of the full and new moons. My theory. These high-energy moon phases briefly and violently destabilize our reality in localized areas, creating a temporary, often invisible dimensional rift or portal. This is a dark tear in the fabric of what we call home. The rift theory neatly explains the impossibility of the Ida Mae case. The extreme weather may not be random. The rifts could be generating an immediate, violent pressure drop, creating the storm as a side effect of the tear in space. The scent vanishes at the water because the creature stepped into the rift or was transported by it. The water acts as a temporary veil or shield from our dimensional sensors, and the creature knows this. The creature that took Ida Mae, whatever it was, is an entity that exists between dimensions, crossing over only when the environmental conditions, especially the moon phase, are exactly correct. This entity, operating outside of normal behavior, was able to instantly shelter the child, perhaps in its own dimension, and then return her to the exact spot. Ida Mae's words, "Daddy bear, water," could be the limited language of a 2-year-old attempting to describe a terrifying, multi-dimensional passage. The story of Ida Mae Curtis is not unique. It's a textbook, missing 411 case. And to grasp the full terror, you must see the pattern repeated elsewhere. We must see the consistent profile points. Look at the case of Keith Parkins in 1957, 2 years after Ida May. A young child near water, disappearing suddenly, and later found in an improbable location. And when we check the moon phase, maximum illumination, again. Or consider the terrifying cases where the child explicitly mentions being given food or being sheltered by a hairy woman or a hairy giant. The common denominator is the care, the bizarre, non-human benevolence. The wilderness is vast and it is dangerous, but the danger in the missing 411 cases is not the animal we know. It is the force that operates when the veil between worlds is thinnest. It is the moment the moon hits its peak, the weather turns violent, and the rift opens. The data presented by Dr. Bachman is more than just a coincidence. It is an indictment of the official investigations that dismiss these variables as random accidents. The statistical evidence of the moon phase is our hardest scientific proof that these disappearances are not random acts of nature. They are structured, organized, and tied to an unknown, powerful force that utilizes our environment. The story of Ida Mae Curtis is a chilling portrait of that force in action. It took her in the chaos of a storm, it covered its tracks in the water, and it returned her unharmed, leaving behind only the terrifying testimony of a child. The question remains, when the moon is at its brightest or darkest, when the storm is breaking and the land feels heavy with silence, are you just hiking? Or are you walking near the edge of a dimensional rift? I want you to be safe. I want you to read the books, understand the profile points, and know the true nature of the wilderness. The full research by Dr. Bachman is available on the canammissing.com website. You need to read it. Until next time, stay vigilant and watch the shadows.